in life skills classes, which are classes for mentally retarded children primarily. But they're autistic. They're not retarded. But many people in the world of special ed, because they don't understand mental health, they will put an autistic kid with the retarded kids, are y'all with me?
Yeah.
Who's not retarded. Because they think autism means retardation. Autism is a communication impairment. The inability to effectively communicate verbally or non-verbally. Y'all know what the non-verbal is, right? You talking to the autistic kid and he just staring at you.
Or not staring at you.
Or not staring at you. Or you bring your autistic kid in a room full of kids and the first thing he do is run into the corner and stay to himself. Because he don't know how to communicate, to interact, to socialize. That's what autism is. I know autistic kids who are gifted. I know autistic kids who are retarded. I know autistic kids who are average. Don't assume one is the other. Specific learning disability has 8 types. 8 types of SLD. What are the 8 types? Now, this word S is important.
It's almost an 8.
Okay? Because before it used to just be LD. Learning disabled. There is no more LD. There is no more LD. It is now SLD. Specific learning disability. And it must be specific to one of 8 categories. It must be specific to one of 8 categories. Somebody give you a report, say your child is LD, and it doesn't tell you which subcategory. Okay? That's an unethical, illegal report. It must categorize. But I can tell you, psychologists who don't know the current regulations are still calling kids LD. It is up to you as the parent to be educated. What are the 8 subtypes?
Dyslexia?
No, ma'am. Dyslexia is not a special ed diagnosis. Now, a child can be diagnosed with dyslexia, right? And put in special ed. But the special ed category won't be dyslexia. The special ed category will be one of the 8. So for dyslexia, it depends on the form. But it will probably be basic reading skill, or written expression, or reading fluency. See, dyslexia is a clinical label.
Okay.
It's not one of the 13. You follow me? But if you're dyslexic, you're going to get special ed help as a dyslexic child with a specific learning disability for basic reading skills.
So it's the learning that the dyslexia affects.
Exactly. It's the learning. There you go. Just like the ADHD kid. You're not getting special ed as an ADHD kid. You're getting special ed as an ADHD kid who has a other health impairment. You must always put the special ed label on in order for them to get the help. Basically, you just change the term. So the dyslexia still be in the report. You follow me? It'll still be there, but your category that qualifies you for special ed ain't the dyslexia, but the specific learning disability.
Yeah, but don't they specifically alter or create your
Stay with me though. Stay with me though.
IEP based on the
They do. But your service comes because you were diagnosed with one of the 13.
Yeah.
You can't add anything extra. The dyslexia, no, you don't ignore the dyslexia. But in order to get service, you must have one of the 13. Dyslexia is not one of the 13. So if I evaluate a kid who's dyslexic, right, they're going to get service as a kid with a specific learning disability for basic reading. In other words, the dyslexia is affecting what skill?
But
So
doesn't
probably
it affect all skills? Like, doesn't it affect my math because that's turned around?
it can, not automatically. Not automatically, it can. But again, if it does, you only going to get the service under these labels. Everybody follow me.
Yeah.
You got to go, because it's all legal. And in legal terms, you got to have the term. You can't say, I want my child to get special ed for dyslexia. Okay, she has dyslexia, she needs special ed, but she can't get it just by saying dyslexia. She has to be evaluated by the school psychologist or the evaluation team and found to have one of these 13. Now, you just said that dyslexia affects her math. So if the dyslexia affects her math, and I find that it's sufficient to warrant special ed help, then it'll be specific learning disability for math computation or for math reasoning. But dyslexia is not a school psychology diagnosis. Y'all got me? Just like ADHD is not. For example, for a dyslexic kid, you can be specific learning disability for basic reading skill, for reading fluency, for reading comprehension, for math calculations, for math reasoning, for written expression, for oral expression, for listening comprehension. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Every subject, though, because you have to read in every subject. You have to
Now,
write
but here's
in
the
every
thing.
subject.
Which of these 8 areas does it affect? That's how you qualify for the special ed. You only qualify for special ed because of this. You can't bring nothing extra in. we're going to look at that dyslexia. It'll be on the report. In other words, to you, it'll look like she's getting the special ed for the dyslexia. Because in a way she is. But in order to qualify, you must be classified as one of the 13 categories.
So then it's true that attention deficit disorder can affect one subject but not the other?
Now remember, if you get ADHD, you're not being diagnosed with a learning disability.
I understand.
You're being diagnosed with a health impairment.
But I'm saying, if you don't have it, if it doesn't affect all of your subjects.
No, that's not true. No. ADHD doesn't have to affect your learning at all.
But I'm saying... Okay,
kids aren't diagnosed with ADHD because they're not learning. They're diagnosed with ADHD because they get on the white teacher's nerves.
I understand, but I'm saying, if you have a disorder, a learning disorder,
right.
I would think it would affect
but ADHD is not a learning disorder.
Okay, but I'm saying a learning disorder. I just used that.
I got you.
So I would think that it would affect your learning all the way across the board. How does the learning disorder just affect one or two subjects?
Well, no.
One or two things?
Because you don't learn how to read the same way you learn how to do math. You don't learn how to read the same way you learn how to do math. The way you do math is not the same way you learn how to write. What you're talking about is the mistake that education has been making up until like the last 20 years. They had a general LD, remember? You were LD and everything. If you couldn't read, we assumed that you was LD and everything. So they just said, he LD, she LD. And then they said, wait a minute, the way you learn to read ain't the way you learn to do math. The way you learn to do math ain't the way you learn to write. So why are we making them LD for everything? That's when they came up with 8 core academic areas. Now you are specific learning disability for basic reading skill, your ability to decode words, reading fluency, your ability to read at the rate of conversational language. Everybody got me there? Fluency is your ability to read it. I should be able to read as smoothly as I'm talking. That's fluency.
But for me, I used to be a teacher. I stopped teaching because I didn't like the system either. But for me, if I found a child who was really good at math and understood the principles of math and computation, so forth and so on, I automatically could apply his ability to the way his brain worked in math to his reading to improve his reading.
You might be able to do that for that child, but you can't generalize it.
Okay, but I'm saying to generalize it the other way is...
Well, we're not generalizing here. We're segmenting out.
Specific now.
Yeah.
But I'm saying to say that, okay, this child has a learning disability in reading, but he's really great in math. It's like saying the child can't learn reading.
No, not true. I know a lot of kids who got reading problems who are great in math. I know a lot of kids who are great in math who got reading problems.
I know a lot of children who have a way of learning in math that can assist them in learning in reading.
And I agree with you.
And vice versa.
And I agree with you, but it's not true for every child, though.
The child learns.
But remember now, it's not true for every child. See, that's why every kid gets their own evaluation. If everybody in here got a reading problem, I'm evaluating everybody in here individually. I'm not assuming that the way you learn is the way he learns. I'm not assuming the way he learns is the way she learns. There's going to be differences. Right. Now, I can use your math strip to help your reading. I can use his math strip to help his reading.
No, you can use something else because everybody can't learn.
Oh, no, of course everybody can learn. Of course.
Yeah, and sure.
Of course, yes. Yes, I'm not saying that. I just don't want you to assume that because they struggle in one area, they struggle in the others. And I don't want you to assume just because they're good in one area that that's necessarily going to help them in the other either. Okay. Every child has their own learning profile, which is why they all get that individual education plan. If they really have a learning disability. Because what I'm finding is too many of our kids ain't got none of this. They just sloppy and lazy as hell. Did y'all hear what I just said? I'm serious. I'm serious. Half the black kids in special ed are just lazy or ain't been taught.
Or bored.
Or bored or ain't been taught. And you know what I do? If I know there's a kid who don't need special ed, you know what I tell them? I say, guess what? Do you think you LD? No. Do you want to go in the learning support classroom? No. Well, guess what? Your teachers think you slow. Your mother think you slow. And you know what we're about to do? I'm about to test you. So if you don't want to go in there, you better do your best. And guess what? They do their best. The scores come out, and everybody look at me like I'm crazy. That boy did this? Yes, he did. You see that? See that? I'll let the kids know. If you don't want to, and the reason, you know why I do that? Because guess who has the highest dropout rate? Black boys in special ed. Why? Because of the stigmatization that I'm not as smart as everybody else. That is the greatest side effect to special ed. That's why the kids don't come to school no more. And then once all the other kids in the school building find out who the LD kids are, it's over. Self-esteem is shot. And nobody's supposed to know anyway. That's supposed to be confidential, but they got a way of finding out. Okay? So that's how that is. ADHD. Let me talk about some of the side effects of the drugs, then we're going to wrap it up and I'll take a couple questions. Also,
go back to the first three things you said about the black man. And the last one was homosexualization.
Miseducation is number one.
Okay.
Psychotropic medication is number two. Incarceration is number three. Extermination, miseducation, psychotropic medication, incarceration, frustration and isolation, which leads to extermination. Homosexualization is part of stage one, the miseducation. Why are so many black boys in jail? So many juveniles. You know why? Because in... Go ahead, Queen Mother.
For every arrest, the Federal Reserve pays $3,000 per month to every court case.
Okay, that's a part of it. Another part of it is this. The reason why we see so many young black boys going to jail as juvenile offenders, adjudicated, because technically until you're 18, you didn't commit a crime, so you get adjudicated. But see, what happened was, remember, for most of American history, they didn't want juveniles in prisons with men because they said they would just corrupt them more. But in 1980, when the Federal Anti-Violence Initiative said that we had a gene that predisposed us to violence, white folks said, what's the use of rehabilitating black kids if they are predetermined to commit crime? So they said, we don't need no juvenile detention centers. We need to just go ahead and lock them up with their fathers.
Wow.
Y'all see that? The white boys, what do they do with them? House arrest, therapy, treatment, learn a trade, get a mentor. Black boys, jail. Why? We can't do nothing for you, black man. We heard that you have a gene that makes you kill regardless of how much help we give you. Y'all see that?
Yes, sir.
It's the eugenics.
That's it.
Racial extermination through science. Racial extermination through a pseudoscience that ain't even real. Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said the whole world is run on a bluff. Okay? Now, reading comprehension, the ability to understand what you read, right? Now, let me tell you where we mess up. Our kids can decode. They might even be fluent, but we stop at fluency. A lot of our kids cannot comprehend what they read. You know why? Right. Because we mistake reading fast for reading well. If we know a kid who can speed read, zoom, 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 we say he's a good reader. Then you ask them a question. What did you read? What was the moral of the story?
No comprehension.
I don't know.
No comprehension.
Because the whole black community is celebrating kids for being what? Good decoders, but not being good comprehenders. The whole purpose for reading is to do what? Pull meaning from the text. So if you're not pulling meaning from the text, you're not a good reader. I don't care how fast you can read through the passage. Make sure your children can understand what they read, because that's the biggest reason for why black kids are trailing white and Asian kids on standardized testing. They don't understand the questions. If they understood the questions, they might have got it right. But they didn't understand the question because we're not making them do it. When you're riding with your child in the car, you give them a newspaper, you make them read it, you take the newspaper away, and you make them memorize what they're reading so they can answer some questions. If they can't do that, they're going to struggle on standardized tests. That's right, no comprehension. Math calculation, this is basic: add, subtract, divide, multiply. Math reasoning, that's the ability to decide on the operation and then complete it. That's normally a word problem. What do I do? And then do it. Written expression, that's either spelling or your written language. And that's something else we got to work on. Our high schoolers can't spell. And you know why? Because they texting so much, they got a whole new language called text. Laugh out loud and shaking my damn head and this and that and da-da-da-da. And they putting that stuff in their essays. They think LOL is a part of standard English. Yes, yes. And y'all not teaching them no different. So we got kids who are being rejected on their college application because what? In the personal statement, they got all type of texting acronyms. See that? We not raising our kids no more. We letting the cell phone raise them. Okay? Oral expression, the ability to articulate. Listening comprehension, the ability to comprehend what you hear. Okay, those are the 8 types of the learning disability. Now, speech and language impairment, this child is a special ed child, but they don't go into a special ed class. They get speech therapy by the speech pathologist. This is a child who might stutter a whole lot. They got a lisp. where they have difficulty understanding spoken